Welcome to the Josh Huisman Podcast.
All right, folks, it is another week, and we are here on the Josh Huisman Podcast, and what an honor it is for me to have the lead singer of the Christian band Petra. John Schlitt is in the studio. How are you doing today, Mr. Schlitt?
Good, Pastor. How about you?
Man, I'll tell you what, whether my day was good or bad before this moment, it don't even matter because now it's good that I get to hang out with you. We've been talking off camera, off microphone for a little bit, and man, just hearing some good stories and fun stuff. And so, man, I'm so thankful to have you on here.
Thank you, buddy. It's always a thrill. The fact that you have such a cool podcast and you have the time for us to talk about some of the stuff in our past and present and future.
Yeah,
that's always a thrill. Thank you for your interest.
Yeah, well, we're going to get into one of the reasons why you're here because Petra is doing a 50th anniversary concert right here at New Hope Community Church in November, November 4th. We're going to talk more about that.
Cool.
But since I have you here in this long form style, most of the interviews I see you in are these quick hits. You got to be to the point and all that. But now I have a chance to ask you all the questions I've ever wanted to ask.
Everybody has always wanted to ask. Oh, I'm in trouble now. I can tell it. Oh, no.
Well, okay. So let's kind of go here. So Petra, all right. In Christian music, you say the word Petra to people. They know who Petra is.
Praise God.
The Christian band Petra, who a pioneer in Christian music, paved the way for so many. And in light of that, I am sure, even though you joined the band in 1986 or 85.
Yes, actually, officially, my first date I was on my birthday, February 3rd.
Okay.
86.
Wow. All right. And so the band had started in 72. 72. All right. So they had been going, and then you joined the band in 86. But it's interesting. You don't have to do too much of a Google search to see that you were the lead singer of the peak years of Petra.
I look back at Petra, and I don't want to shortchange Greg, who was a singer before me. He's truly probably one of the finest singers in America.
I agree. Yes.
But at that time, they weren't allowed to even come close to what Petra was able to do later as far as rock. And Greg's voice was always really geared to a more pop mellow. He leans in that direction. So I still believe that they had a fantastic peak with Not of This World, Never Say Die, Beat the System. And so when I joined the band, they had just come off of a peak, which was Beat the System.
Yeah.
And so we spent a year taking a dive because no one could believe that you lose somebody like Greg, the band's going to be able to survive. But they didn't look at who wrote all the songs. They didn't look at the skills of all the players. And it was that typical, the singer's gone. He's everybody. He's everything. And I totally agree with them. But
well, you guys,
I am the singer. Come on. So I agree with that philosophy.
Here's something that is right. But here's something so cool. And I don't think I'm a rarity in this. I think the Petra fan base equally loves both of those genres of Petra that you're talking about, because I love those albums, those early albums of Petra. So
do I.
And with Greg Volz as the singer. Yeah. I remember my parents who had that live Captured in Time and Space VHS tape.
Yep.
You want to hear an interesting story before you joined the band? My parents watched this, by the way, and one night, me and my younger brother were dropped off at my grandparents' house, and they took my older brother to go see the Beat the System tour.
And they didn't let you guys go?
They left us at home.
And they just left you with the tape. Man, what kind of parents do you have?
You know what? They're believers. We've forgiven them.
Good. That's good. That's a good thing.
So the thing that was interesting, though, because that album, the Beat the System album, that was, even as a young boy, that I love that the music on that album. Some of It Is Finished that's on there. Beat the System itself, the title track. Some great songs that are on there. And so you kind of look at, here's a band on the ascent, right? And then the lead singer change takes place. And I'm curious, I've heard you talk a lot about your personal testimony, but on an emotional level, did you you have any fear stepping into that space?
No, not at all. I knew. You have to understand the background of how I came into the band, and know that God had prepared me for it. So I'd been in a secular band playing in front of more people than Petra had for 5-6 years. So I had a front, and Petra was the biggest Christian rock band in the world at the time. But I was in a secular world and I had played in front of pretty much every major tour that was happening in the 70s. And so I had that kind of experience. Was I a Christian? Absolutely not. And because of it, it almost caused me to suicide. But God was there, and he saved me. And when I got into the Word for the next 5 years, it was heavy duty for me. I really wanted to find out exactly why didn't I commit suicide? Why did God step in? Why did he allow my wife to become a Christian and be a tool that brought me into the fold? And why did he bring me in the fold in the first place? I was not cool. I was a dirty dude.
Yeah.
And the fact that I got a chance to have a second chance and become a Christian. And now I gave music totally up. I never thought I'd sing another note. And so my goal was to find out what God had for me and to live a godly life and take care of my family. And one day I just finished my first home. And I'm a do-it-yourselfer, so whatever home I ever buy, it needed work. And
it was a project.
It was a project. So I just finished a project, and I was sitting with my wife because I didn't have to do anything that Sunday afternoon. Normally I'd work on my home. And I was sitting, well, I got my home's finished. My kids are going to Christian school. I got a great church. I got a great job. This must be the American dream. This must be the plan God has for me. And all of a sudden it was like in the back of my head, a voice goes, this is not it. Don't be content. This is not it. And I looked at my wife. I said, babe, I feel like God just told me this isn't it. And I explained to her the whole thing. What do you think it would be? I said, I don't know. Because as far as I was concerned, music was totally out. Because I hadn't sang in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
My voice was, I'm sure, was gone.
Were you familiar with the Christian music scene?
I was familiar with Petra.
Okay.
Somebody had handed me a Petra record and said, it sounds just like your old record, your old group, but Christian. I said, yeah, right. Listen to it, and I go, oh my gosh, this is what rock can be. And I was so disappointed because I had been not a cool dude in my secular world. I knew every 4-letter word and spouted it out as much as I could because that was being cool for being a lead singer. And I just felt I was too dirty to ever be used as a Christian artist. Now that's when God finally had to come to me and say, John, exactly which sin is it that you committed that's greater than my blood? And it changed my world. And I was ready then. Before I wasn't. I was ready then, and that's when God started putting people across my path saying, hey, you've got changes coming, you got this, you got that. I'm going, yeah, well, what? And then when Bob Hartman called me, who, of course, I knew who he was because he was my favorite band of all times. And he says, do you know who I am? I said, oh, yeah, I know who you are. And in fact, I said, I don't know who you think I know who you're trying to be. I don't know who this is. I didn't believe him for a while, but then I finally go, no, he's serious. He's Bob Hartman. And I thought maybe, well, Greg messed his throat up and they need to have somebody to come and finish the background vocals. And I was like excited just to be in the studio again. And then Bob says, we've determined that Greg's supposed to leave and we want to know if you consider singing for Petra. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And I said, yeah, let's do it. And he goes, well, don't you think you should pray about it? Well, oh, yeah, I guess so. But I knew for a fact. So when I started singing with Petra, I knew that God had prepared me. 7 years of being in front of thousands of people, becoming a front man, becoming a pro.
Yeah.
And then 5 years of becoming a Christian and not being the baby Christian that says everything wrong. I mean, it just stumbles on his own, on his own tongue. Yeah. And Petra needed that kind of a front man.
So what about, did you have any thoughts about, you said 5 years of being a Christian and then here now in 1986 being asked to step into the limelight again. Did you have any thoughts about, well, hey, listen, there was some stuff in those years when I was singing that, one of the things I think of, like people when they become believers, the devil will often throw that and say, but remember what you did, remember who you were.
I'll tell you why. The blood of Christ. The blood of Christ.
Amen.
I walked on stage every night and said, Lord, I was pretty stupid today. I did some dumb things. Please forgive me. Let me walk on stage as a clean vessel and help me to stay out of the way and let your will be done. And that's how I live today.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, nowadays I walk across the street and have to ask God forgiveness. You know, we're human. We blow it every day. We blow it every hour. I call it the Jekyll and Hyde syndrome, because you wake up in the morning, you say, "Okay, I'm gonna be perfect today." Before you even get out of the bedroom, you've blown it. You know, it takes one traffic jam to turn you into a non-Christian. But the blood of Christ sees all of this, and when you can, and does that give me the right to be a lousy sinner? No. I'm not saying that I'm trying to be. I'm saying that I'm human and I blow it, and that's what God is talking about. He loves us so much that He knew that we needed His blood to cleanse us. That's the only way I can walk daily and do what God opens the door to do.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I was having you come in here, I was really thinking, you know, you've done so many interviews, you've done so many conversations about Petra and your time joining the band and all that. And I was really thinking about what are some things we could talk about that maybe would even come at this from a different angle, you know? And I'm always interested in, as a pastor, I'm interested in what God's doing inside of a person while you're walking through some of these things, you know? And so, you know, you mentioned a little bit about how Bob Hartman writing the songs and all that. And I've always been interested in the change that took place in the style of the songs from Greg to you.
Well, I'll tell you,
that transition had to be interesting.
That was major. That was Bob's plan. Now, remember, Bob is a founding member, the only one left. And when I joined the band, they had sent me all their records at that time, and I'd listened to all of them. I loved them all, except the Sand record. I couldn't ever deal with that one.
The Sand record.
Yeah, the first one, the Lucas McGraw and all that. It's like, I think I listened to 2 songs. That's not the Petra I know. But I got sort of used to it as time went on. Every time we went to Europe, everybody's requesting Lucas McGraw and something blues. I'm going, God, you guys got weird taste. But that was just me. But as I got down and realized that at that time it was cutting edge stuff, and as usual, Petra was on the cutting edge trying to do what they felt was the best thing to bring across the message. So I got used to it. But Beat the System was my favorite album. And I said, man, Bob, especially Beat the System, that's a great record. He said, we're never going to do one like that again. I said, okay.
What's the backstory behind that?
Oh, he did not. It was too high tech, too Fairlight, too electronic, and he was bound to determine he was going to go back to the roots. He was going to do rock and roll. And we were going to go back to rock and roll, and we were going to use that music style to bring across the message. And that's why John and Dino came in the picture. Now, our producers that were our producers for 5-6 records straight.
Yeah.
Some of the biggies, most of the biggies actually, and the combination of John and Dino and myself, we all had secular experience. We knew what secular rock was all about. And not that Bob didn't. He was a big fan of all the secular guitar players. And so it wasn't like they were novice, but it was good for like us that had gone through it, had experience and knew what the flavor was.
Sure.
And so that's why it took such a big change. We had the combination of John and Dino and myself and Bob's willpower to say we are going to go back to a more and rock is almost more evangelistic anyway. You get into the pop mode and it's like, okay, that's cool, but it's not. It just doesn't have that drive yet.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's nothing really in music that can catch you like an electric guitar that is just
that's just stomping and going in there, and a high note the singer sings that still drives my throat crazy. but it was driving. It was an exciting music form to sing about a very exciting subject, Jesus Christ.
So Bob was as the primary songwriter. He bringing in like kind of the bones of the song, and then the producers, you kind of started putting flesh on that and go in that direction.
And he was also wise to know that John and Dino knew what they were doing, and he'd come in with a melody line that was like, "What's that?" And John and Dino and I a little bit would go in and say, "Okay, let's change this a little bit." And Bob said, "Don't change one word. This is the word of God. Do not change one word." And sometimes that was pretty hard because, I mean, there were some phrases where, you had 5 syllables and you had 14 words. So it was really hard to fit those 14 words into 5 syllables. But that was the genius of John and John Elfonte. And I helped a little bit, but not, I mean, it was genius. It was John's genius.
Yeah.
And so Petra was very blessed to have some amazing people, including the band. The band, I mean, my gosh, John Lowry's one of the best keyboard players in America. Bob truly is, and really, I don't know if he's ever been given this credit. He's one of the best guitar players I've ever played with, and I've played with a lot of amazing guitar players. He just has a certain style. He's very, very sticks to a certain, doesn't venture out. He designs a style, a lick, does it, and it's going to sound like that every night, which is weird for me because I've never seen a guitar player do that before.
Yeah.
But that makes him unique and makes him very good.
Well, one of the things that you just mentioned, I agree with you. Just listening to his guitar playing over all of these years, and as someone who I'm not a guitar player, I can play some chords and things like that. But just from a listener perspective and a fan perspective, you respect his songwriting ability, his playing and all that.
Yep.
But isn't it fascinating that one of Petra's calling cards has always been its lyrical content?
Yes.
That, even I remember back in the day when people actually bought physical product and each song had the writer and the scripture that it was based, that Petra would put that in there.
Yep.
And when you listen to, now when I was younger, I really respected it, but as a pastor now, I deeply respect the fact that when you listen to those songs, you go, somebody was studying their Bible.
Oh, he was a scholar. He was actually a theological scholar.
Yeah.
He went to college for that.
And it's there. I mean, and then the fact to put that to melody, to put that in the context of a rock song. I mean, and that was the thing. I mean, so yes, I mean, if he were sitting here today, I would say, do you want to be remembered as Bob Hartman, a great guitar player, or that the scripture was what everyone remembers? I think he would say the scripture.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
I think Bob is enjoying this 50th anniversary more, not because he can play guitar again and does a really great job, but the results, the comments we get when we have a chance to do the meet and greet, and the VIP people and the comments they come out with, and they're really making a big deal about his writing, and I'm glad to see it because there's a lot of great guitar players. How many great Christian rock writers are there?
Yeah. Well, we need more.
I agree.
That's
and
for
you
sure.
know what? There are some, but we need to support them.
We need to support them.
The problem is right now the industry could care less about those kind of people that are evangelistic, reaching out to people with amazing words. It's not sellable. So you don't ever hear about them. So I suggest that folks start checking out things and using the internet instead of destroying music. Start building it up again, and search for those writers, those anointed writers that are thinking evangelistically rather than just edifying.
Well, we had Michael Tate and Jeff Frankenstein of the Newsboys on the second episode, and I think it was Michael Tate who was saying, he's like, listen, worship music is great. We love singing it. We love being in church with it.
They do a great job.
And he said, but one of the things it creates is it doesn't. You can't bring worship music to a non-believer. A non-believer's not having it. it feels like it's a club that's over here. He said, so he was talking on the episode about really reminiscing of the days of DC Talk and Newsboys with their early music. They still do it. They're still out there with music that has an evangelistic nature to it. They do some worship stuff as well. But I think what we're talking about here is that need to be writing songs that to steal a title of a song, to hit people where they live, right? And kind of bring them in and say, hey, Jesus can bring you out of that.
Petra has always realized that they are labeled a Christian rock band. Okay, that has two labels that are both very, very important. And you better be both 100%. You better be a Christian. You better be 100% Christian. Don't mess around. Does make you perfect? No, but you realize why, that you have a goal. You have a responsibility. But you also have a responsibility of being the best rock band you can be, because Christ deserves the best. And that music form is a great key to open up the doors to bring across the message that if you have legitimized yourself as a real rock band, for instance, we call ourselves rock. Okay, if we call ourselves a rock band and we've proved to the public that we actually are a rock band, we're pretty good. Then they might not agree with our message, but they won't buffoon it either. They will tolerate it. I hate to put it that way. Sometimes because they respect the musical talent, they will tolerate the message. And as they tolerate it, also that message starts getting deeper and deeper. And you'd be surprised how it can cut through the hard garbage that they've been conditioned to bring across a new thought, a new idea, a new Savior.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So we've always realized that the music part is just it's the legitimizing of bringing across the message and being heard. So it's a major responsibility. Just like Mike said, I guarantee I know Mike. I know exactly where he's at. He's totally on board with what I'm saying. And the Whiteheart, you mentioned them earlier. Now Whiteheart, they were trying to figure out where to fit, and I don't know. And Billy, I'm with him all the time. He said we were trying to be. Not be quite as churchy, but when they say that, I get it. I get what they wanted to reach the popular. The phrase is the general populace.
Yeah.
Well, they wanted to reach the general populace with their skill, and they had a lot of it. And because they were labeled Christian, they were hoping that would bring interest into that.
Yeah.
They weren't quite as committed, and please understand, they are a great band. They are a great Christian band. They're great guys. So I'm not degrading it.
Oh, sure.
It's just they weren't quite as extreme as Petra or the Newsboys or DC Talk. DC Talk, my guys, in their peak, they were stomping. They were stomping Christians, which was very cool.
Well, every one of those bands you just mentioned, when I was in my high school and college years, when Petra, Whiteheart, DC Talk, when they came to town, I had a lot of friends who weren't believers, but I had already, when they were playing their Motley Crue's, Metallica's, things like that. I had the cassettes of each of those bands, and hey, check this out. And just like every other band, you have some songs you like, some songs you don't like. But Petra, Whiteheart, DC Talk, every one of them had songs that you could go, hey, what about this one? And they would like that. So when the tour came to town, hey, come with me to the Petra show.
And they said, well, they're not a bad band. I'll try it.
They would come. And then
Praise God.
The pinnacle of that for me became, because I had seen you guys at Wheaton College one time on the Unseen Power tour.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
And then the next year, the one after that was Wake Up Call.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that one though was out in. I grew up in Chicago, on the south side of Chicago.
With Wheaton, I sort of thought you might.
Okay. And then the Wake Up Call tour, though, I don't know if it was called that, but it was a couple hours away, and I had 3 or 4 friends who weren't into Christian music. I was like, "Hey, Petra, you guys remember? Let's go see them. They're a couple hours away," and they came with me.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool.
And those are the kind of things in today's worship scene where everything is primarily worship driven. I don't know. I mean, I could ask my boys because I have 4 kids of my own, but it seems like a much harder sell to get non-believers to come with you to a 100% straight on worship event as opposed to an evangelistic concert event.
Now there is possibilities with that only because the YouTube has got so much.
It's true.
Major, classy views of churches with praise and worship and the band's going nuts and there's thousands of people working together. They can see it's an event.
Oh yeah, sure.
The only thing that might draw an unsaved kid to one of those is because it looks so exciting. They might want to check it out just because it's interesting.
Sure.
So there's his hope, but not like a rock. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's still rock and roll.
Okay, so let's get back into some of this Petra stuff because I want to find this interesting. I'm going to close the door on the pre-John Schlitt era.
Okay.
What's your favorite song from the pre-John Schlitt era?
Oh, there's so many. Never Say Die, Not of This World. I'm not a big coloring song guy. I mean, it's nice, but I think Never Say Die, Not of This World.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What about Witch Hunt? Beat the System.
Actually, I really loved Witch Hunt. That was really cool. Beat the System was cool. But after Bob bad rapped it so much, it's like, okay, I'll never listen to it again. All right.
Yeah.
No, but it's great stuff.
There's so much good stuff. Yeah. Okay, so then you go in and getting into now your era when you guys, I remember first hearing Back to the Street because my parents were always buying each of those albums that came out, Jesus said, go. Yeah. So I was like, wait a minute, that's not the same band. This is a different. That doesn't sound like the other guy, So that was a fun experience for me. But okay, so here's song wise and lyrically something I really wanted to ask you, and if Bob was here too, I wanted to ask him.
Okay.
Because since Petra was a pioneer and they're paving a way. Okay, for other bands who are going to come behind them. And you've talked about this a lot. Petra faced a lot of challenges and opposition from areas you wouldn't think you'd be facing it from.
Right.
Specifically from the church and from pastors like me, and what did that feel like?
It was disappointing. When I first joined the band, I was so blessed that I was going to be able to go on and make a difference. All the places I played with my old band Head East, I was going to play in the same places and have a totally different message, totally different attitude. The fact that God was giving me a second chance, I was blown away. And I thought the church probably loved us.
Open arms.
Come on, guys. Yeah, bring those kids in that don't come to church. That's fantastic. That's great. Nope. All they could think of was some clown that didn't like drums made up the story about some native saying it's from hell, and because some native which was a lie that never happened, but because it was a convenient story to let people know they didn't like that style, so it must be from hell. It just skyrocketed, and if it's negative, the church seems to just gravitate it real quick, and so we would play one church and have it sell out and see kids just coming forward with an altar call, and the outside there's another church picketing us in the parking lot. And we go out to those people during sound check. We go out and say, listen, we probably need some more volunteers to help us with the altar call and maybe be able to talk to the kids that have given their lives to the Lord. Would you come in? Yeah, we'll come in. Wouldn't they, with crossed arms, the whole, with that basic sense, I don't care what you do. I don't believe it. I'm not going to believe it because it's not what I feel comfortable believing. Yeah. And they'd walk out and say, "What do you think?" Well, it's not not real. It's not. It's all phony. And it broke my heart. Yeah. And actually, Bob wrote a couple of songs that I think were statements to me. The first one was, I have a thankful heart. And when I first joined the band, I was the most thankful dude in the world. The fact that God gave me a second chance was amazing. And I let the band know it. Other men, guys, this is so cool. I'm just so thank you for allowing me to be part of this band. This is so cool. Thank you. And Bob wrote a song called I have a thankful heart. And the next album was Don't Let Your Heart Be Hardened. Because by this time, it's been about 1.5 years, 2 years of dealing with these doubting Thomases, these I know it all. You can't be from God because I don't like it. I mean, no matter what we did, no matter how many times we tried to explain where we're coming from, what God has done, our testimonies, it didn't matter.
No.
And it broke my heart. And I just, and Bob, I remember one time after one luncheon, we had just, it was Eddie DeGarmo, Bob, and I, and we had just gone, all three of us sharing our testimony, sharing what we see. And, you know, there's one guy sitting here, crossed arms this whole time. Didn't say a word the whole time. And as everyone's getting up, he proceeds to get up and said, you know, I didn't need any rock and roll to get saved. I don't need what anybody else does now either. And he stomped out. And I want to go. And that just bugs me because I would have said, hey, you mean to tell me because you didn't get saved from rock and roll doesn't mean it can't be used by somebody else? I see. Everybody's supposed to get saved just like you, huh?
Yeah.
And I never got a chance to that. And I hope he's listening, and I hope you get, I want you to know right now, it's not a very godly attitude, but it's just, that kind of thing was really bugging me.
Well, that's, it hurts.
Yeah.
You know, my first experience with that was when I was working with youth, and I was invited to a mission trip in Romania, and I was asked to be the worship leader for the mission trip, and someone else was going to be the pastor and the speaker and all that. So, and they had a group of about maybe 75 to 100 college students at this retreat center that went up on a mountain. Okay. And we did like an event each night and worship, and I had some songs and I was pretty good at getting, because I was working in youth ministry for many years, getting kids engaged and to sing the songs and to do all that. And we get to the final night and we do the worship, and I played one particular song, and the pastor gave an invitation, and 11 or 12 kids come forward and they get saved. It was beautiful, you know, and just crying and this moment. And well, the next day, these kids want to be baptized, and they're like, they want to go down on the mountain and be baptized. Well,
praise God.
The not the pastor of the camp, but the pastor of the church then sits down and meets and wanted to know, what rhythms was I using in the guitar? Was it too drum-like, and demonic, to get them to persuade? And then he wanted to sit down with each of these. This was my first experience with this. I'm going, wait a minute, what? What
world did you come from?
Right. Where did that come from? What are you talking about? You know, we did what Paul said. We became all things to these people, and they have accepted Christ. It is genuine, and my heart, it just sunk.
Yep. Welcome to my world.
That's why I say it hurts.
Yeah, it hurts. Now, did I overcome? Of course I did, because God's bigger than that. And this was when I was first part of the band, and it got to a point after you explain yourself so many times and you answer the question, how can you say that Christian rock can be of God when, you know, it's rock and roll? That's not. And I go, you finally realized, hold it, I don't need to justify to them. Who are they? They're just a bunch of failures just like me. I don't have to justify myself to them. I have to justify myself for Christ.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly asking guidance and forgiveness and cleansing. They need to do the same.
Yeah.
They don't like the music, too bad. Don't listen to it.
Yeah. You sing it for an audience of one, and let the Holy Spirit do that work.
I'll be honest, that was so peaceful. I don't remember when it was, but I think one day I just said, I don't need to justify it to anybody. God knows what I'm doing. I'm doing it for Him, not anybody else.
Yeah.
And the plan fit.
Yeah. Well, there's interesting thing going back to the songwriting. One of the things I noticed is Petra, and maybe this is what Bob really wanted to focus on. You said he wrote a couple songs about it, but like This Means War, for example.
Oh, yeah.
And these songs about spiritual warfare. There's multiple spiritual warfare songs that Petra delved into. And I wonder, did it come from that place of going, hey, we're kind of getting it from everywhere. There's a spiritual battle going on, and we want to be...
No, we always as Christians realized the battle is a spiritual battle, and it's always going to be, until Christ comes back. The enemy doesn't like what we do, and he's never going to let you go in peace, because that doesn't fit his plan. So you've got, as Christians, we should all understand there's a spiritual battle going on all times. If it was up to me, after This Means War, it should have been This Means War 2, This Means War 3, This Means War, because that record was so on with the songs, with the attitude, with the presentation of what Christian music's about. It just and it does. I mean, right now, our 50th anniversary, we know we're going to war. We go to war every night, and we praise God for it, because we're warriors for Christ. I mean, in my writing, which is not nearly as amazing as Bob's, but you'll see me sing about the warriors of Christ, and I told Anders there's a war going on, and it's not going to be over until Christ comes back, and he puts the enemy where he belongs. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, the way you have always sung This Means War, I mean, with the, I can't do it because I can't go as high as you can, but that is like a guttural.
Yep.
This means war. How many takes did that one take in the studio to
gosh, let's not talk about that. That's another one of those John and Dino things where they just destroyed me. But I praise God for it. Now, one of the cool things about what I get to do is I get to deliver those songs that Bob writes. And I deliver them in the studio, and I deliver them live. And that's my responsibility. My responsibility isn't to be a producer. It's not to be a major songwriter for Petra. It's to deliver the spirit of the song.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done.
So you mentioned that This Means War 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, so if we were to say, let me I'll paint you into a corner here, okay?
Oh, thank you very much.
All right. Okay. So from Back to the Street, then we have This Means War, Fired Up, Beyond Belief.
No, Petra Praise 1.
Petra Praise 1, okay. And then Beyond Belief, then Wake Up Call.
Yes.
Okay. And let's stop there, because that's when the Bob Hartman was on tour, right?
Yes, that was all Bob tours, yes.
Okay. Which one of those? You have one album that John Schlitt can have.
That's not fair.
I told you I'm painting you into a corner. You got one album.
Okay, which one of my kids do I love more? Thank you very much. Okay,
There is one.
I will tell you. Let's do each one of those records. Okay. This means Back to the Street. It was a learning curve for me.
Okay.
I hadn't sang for 5 years. It was a struggle. Did I enjoy it? No. Was I happy with it? Yes, because they worked my tail off. It wasn't my favorite album, but it was an album that needed to be done at the time. We had a number one single on it, which was I Have a Thankful Heart, which it couldn't have been a better song to break in the new Petra.
Okay.
That was good. And Back to the Street wasn't too shabby either.
Oh, it's a good song.
But also Fool's Gold. I mean, it had some beautiful songs on it, and it really did open up the way for people going, wow, I thought Petra was over. Wow, this is a different Petra. This is interesting. Right. And it opened up. And then This Means War comes along, and it was the perfect record for us. I mean, I was ready. I'd been on the road for 2 years. My voice was back. My touring world was back in order. I had the sound men that I needed. They knew what I needed. I was starting to kick on. My voice was getting strong. It was a good spot for me. Financially, we were struggling because just before This Means War, we were hurting. But This Means War comes out, and about that time, when we started that tour, it just exploded.
Well, were you hurting because it felt like you were a band starting over on that first album? And then you're just
trying one place. The band would play with like Beat the System one place and play in front of 6,000 people. The next time we played there, we're playing for 600 people in a bar on a Sunday, just after Saturday. Some whoever, and the beer bottles were still on the floor. It was very disheartening, that kind of thing. So it was a tough struggle. In fact, at that moment, I remember that club, after we played there, everybody got into our bus and Bob set us all down. We all basically said, we need to pray about this if we're supposed to still do it. And the answer was absolutely, but we need to be more available. We need to be available for anything God puts in our spot, in our place. And I'm telling you, because of that, because we listened to those prayers, very shortly after, our career just exploded.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. Went from hardly being able to sell out 600 people to double sellouts everywhere we went. And This Means War was a major part of it because it was exactly what needed to be said. We were the one band that was supposed to say it. It was what we believed. It was where we came from. It's how God had really sort of conditioned us. It was a very good time for Petra. And then it just got better.
Yeah.
Because On Fire, we changed labels there. That album, I was very fearful that we'd never be able to match This Means War. The first 3 songs on Fire just blew me away. I remember listening for the first time, and the first 3 songs were like, bam, bam, bam. I mean, I was in shock. I said, I can't believe this is better than This Means War. I'm like, but we were changing labels, and they didn't do a thing with it. And that was okay because by that time our momentum was so on, and the people that they realized the album was great.
I remember with Fired Up, and it's not when I say this, but I remember the tagline was, "This is Petra's metal album." It was actually,
it was close.
It was close for sure.
This is Petra's metal album.
I have to tell you this.
I love that
because we can't skip it over. I think my dad's favorite song of all the Petra songs was "He Came, He Saw, He Conquered" on the This Means War
because it's so victorious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still one of that. You ask Bob what's his favorite song, he'll say This Means War, or he'll say He Came, He Saw. Yeah, such a great song. And I think This Means War, going into Fired Up, On Fire. Am I getting the title wrong here? I get it mixed up too. I don't know which it is either.
Yeah.
Fired Up.
But This Means War with the Elefantes, that's what really started that Petra sound.
Yep.
That's exactly your era.
That's why I wanted each album to tell you what This Means War was absolutely it. And Fired Up to me was just part 2. This Means War part 2, but even harder.
Yeah.
But it didn't get much traction because the label was ticked off we were leaving it. And they said, well, fine, just let it do what it's going to do. We're not going to push it. But by that time, our momentum had picked up so well that it wasn't quite as disastrous to us. And then Petra Praise 1 came out, and it exploded all over the world.
Yeah. So this worship thing we were talking about is...
I know it's our fault. It is. We know that.
I know. I wasn't going to go there.
No, it's okay.
You brought it up.
We brought it on, and sometimes we regret it. But no, it was really... It was another album that needed to be done. In fact, we did it as a signing bonus. Neither label, the label we left and the label we joined, really believed in it. And the only reason the label that we joined, they said, well, okay, you do it, but it'll be a signing bonus. And so you guys, here's a signing bonus, take it, use it. It was nothing compared to what we were used to. But we just said, okay, John Lowry produced half of it, Bob produced half of it. We asked every favor from every friend we knew, and it ended up being second best-selling record we've ever had.
Well, it was a brilliant idea. And I wouldn't, and it wasn't done as an idea, as a money-making scheme.
No,
it was done as
to serve.
To serve.
It was to serve.
I was a youth group kid at that time.
Yep.
And I remember when Petra Praise came out thinking, oh my goodness, like songs for us that we can sing in our youth group.
Yes, that's what it was for.
Yeah.
In fact, if you would have been one of the few that finally bought it. The whole reason for that record was to be a praise and worship assist to song leaders in church, and we were going to have a disc or a tape that just had the music. We had songbooks, and the CD itself was just to let you see how it could sound. And it was supposed to be a praise and worship assist to churches that really didn't have that great a program. The whole thing started when we went to California to a conference of music leaders, youth group and music leaders, and we went and said, you guys have been so faithful. This was when all of a sudden the churches started coming to our shows and actually accepted us. We weren't from hell anymore to most churches. And we were thankful for that. And we wanted to say, how can we help? We see that you guys are trusting us. How can we be useful to you more? And they said, well, it's great that our kids come to your concerts on Saturday and they're praising God and having a great time. But then on Sunday, they just sit there. We said, well, what's your music like? Well, it's not that good. And so that's when we came up with the idea of playing. We went out and we sent messages to all the youth, the song leaders and pastors that we knew personally, saying, can you send us a list of the songs your kids like, or the songs that you think are very useful for youth praise and worship? And they sent us all these songs, and we picked the ones we felt could work with us, and we could make it to where it didn't sound artificial. It sounded like Petra would do it this way. And we created that, and it was funny. Yeah. The record, like I said, it was a signing bonus to the record company. Going, okay, we've got to deal with this, and now we're going to do that, and we'll get the first Petra record coming up one of these days, and it'll be cool. And all of a sudden, the sample is selling out of the stores, and they're getting requests by everybody, all the stores, Christian stores, hey, give us that. And so they had to change everything. The songbook idea, the whole package went right out the window. I don't know how many, I have no idea how many they actually created before it went out the window. And they had to repackage the CD, and it finally came out as Petra Praise 1, or The Rock Cries Out. And they couldn't keep up with it. They couldn't, and it was like they were in shock. Yeah. And we know that it was because we wanted to serve, and God honored that.
Well, I think God totally honored that. I mean, because if you look at the success of that it wasn't done to be a success. It was done to be a help. Yep. And then the album that comes after that is this is one that some Petra fans know it.
You mean Beyond Belief?
Beyond Belief.
Oh yeah.
And then it was just off to the races.
Yeah. And Beyond Belief probably was, with the touring we were doing with Josh McDowell, that probably was, that's when we hit our glass ceiling. We were too synonymous for being a Christian band. We couldn't break into the secular market, and we really didn't want to. I mean, the label A&M Records, if you just don't say Jesus, say God, and that's not us. And say, no, we're talking about Jesus. And they go, oh, fine, great, then we'll put the thing out. We're just not going to push it. And that's when we hit a certain level. A lot of the Christian bands call it the glass ceiling, and or at least we did back then. And Beyond Belief was pretty much our glass ceiling, and it's okay because it's not like we haven't been around for a while. And then we lasted for another 20 or 30 years. So it just was, that was the peak, and we could never break through that again.
Yeah. Well, there's so many songs. We could be on here for hours, and you don't have as much time as I do, but. There's so many songs that in the Petra catalog with your time that we could talk about. But I've heard you talk about this. But there's a song on that album, Beyond Belief, that I think is so timely for today, and it's Prayer.
Oh yeah, I love singing that song.
Specifically, the second half of Prayer, of Bring Our Wayward Country Back to You, and I was preparing, knowing you were coming in, and just listening through some songs. I went, oh my goodness. Yep. We need a re-release of these songs, that are real, They are right to the point of what we as believers in Christ need to be praying right now. I mean, it's such a powerful song.
Yeah, I agree. And we did that live for a long time, and it was always, for me, it was a thrill because I was able to sing to God personally in front of a lot of people. And that's how I looked at it. It just, you guys, please listen to this. I'm going to sing to God. And if you want to sing along, you sing to God too. And and Bob's writing was so cool. He was able to make it personal, but be Petra.
Yeah.
And it was just very cool. So that and then Love, and I mean, that record, we had 6 number ones only because we released 6 songs. We probably could have had 8 number ones if we'd left. Every song just made sense.
Yeah. Wonderful album. Wake Up Call came after that. I'm very familiar. I know you worked with Brown Bannister on that song, right?
Yes.
Producing that. So that was a change. Was that a big change going from?
Probably too big.
Yeah.
Brown is an amazing producer, but he produces a certain way. And we were so used to John and Dino. They were more dictatorial. And they came in and said, okay, you're going to do it this way. Brown is, how do you want to do it? I'm here to help you. And we weren't used to it. I mean, Brown was very, very open for ideas, very open to what do you guys want to do? And nobody'd ask us that. Nobody'd ask us that I mean, Bob always had ideas, and he would be, but the rest of us are, okay, tell me what you want me to do. How is this supposed to sound this time? Because it was always a Bob, John, and Dino camp with me sort of added in as flavor. And the band goes, okay, how's the song supposed to sound? And they would create it for us. Where Brown comes in and say, okay, what part do you want? How do you want to play this? And it was different. I'll tell you what, Brown was the easiest producer for me to ever sing to.
Yeah.
I was told I went to a specialist before I started that record just to make sure my voice was in good shape because I was told he was so hard on singers, and I just spent years with John Elfanti, who is a terror on vocals, but I just took that as normal. and John's my buddy, so he knows what I'm talking about. I tell him that every time. So I walk in the first day with Brown, and usually with John and I, it would take us a day. It'd take a half day just to get my voice totally raw. So John would get the sound he wanted me to get. So my throat wasn't bleeding by the end of the day. I wasn't doing my job. So I go into the studio with Brown. I'm thinking, maybe a song every 3 days. That's fine. Okay, I'm ready for it. Do one song in his style, the way he does it. And, after 2 hours, he says, okay. I said, what do you mean, okay? He says, I think we got it. Listen. And I'm listening going, oh, that's great. Oh, okay. He says, you want to do another? I said, yeah, I'm homestead. I'm not even warmed up yet.
Mean, just for fun?
My voice isn't bleeding yet. What's wrong? And we'd end up doing 2 songs a day, and I'd be done before noon. And I'm going, this isn't right. And I think the second day I said, Brown, are you just settling with me? Are you just settling because you think this is the best I can give for you? He says, no, John, you're doing great. No, I'm hard. I don't need to be hard. You're doing great. I'm going, well, tell the rest of the band, will you? Yeah. Because I guarantee you, I know the rest of them must have thought I was just being a loafer. If I wasn't bleeding every day, I must not be doing my job.
Or you just had mastered your craft at that point.
That's it. I was a master.
That's what it was.
That's it.
100%.
I'm gonna stick with that from now on.
Hey, so you know what? I messed up, and I don't want comments from Petra fans because I skipped Unseen Power.
Oh, buddy. Oh my gosh.
Which, you want to hear a funny story?
Yes.
Okay, so listen. So when we bought that album, my parents have been worship leaders on the south side of Chicago since have been alive. So 46 years, maybe even more than that. Wow. And they lead at a church that is a diverse church, people from all different ethnic backgrounds and different things. So not just people who look like you and me, but all different backgrounds. Unseen Power comes out, and the first song
on the lower side.
There's that one. Okay. See, that would not make this story as funny.
Okay.
We would have worship team parties in our house and people from all different backgrounds, and my dad had just bought these JBL speakers that were the size of this table.
Ooh.
And we had him in the house, and he puts on Destiny. And he turns it up. We would turn it up as loud as it could get. And that guitar would come in, that, and people, we'd be blowing them out of the room.
That's what it was for. You're supposed to blow them out of the room. And it makes you talk about it.
And the people, they were very sweet. They're like, that's nice rock music. We thought it was the greatest thing ever. Intro to Destiny.
It was an interesting album. That the front cover, the with the windmills and everything.
Yeah.
Well, there's a video that was a promotion video for it, and we did that promotion video before we even had any idea what the album was going to be called, what it was going to be like. We hadn't even we hadn't had enough time to work on it yet because we were still busy doing Beyond Belief. I mean, we're right in the middle, not in the middle, but close to still plenty of albums to do or plenty of shows.
That album probably had more legs than anything you had done.
Yeah, and so we just happened to be out in California. And the record company says, "Hey, why are you out here? Let's use the windmills and let's do a video." They got oh my gosh, helicopters and all that stuff. Uh-huh. And we were out there making, acting like we're sitting to, I don't know, Van Halen. It was like, and you were doing this, and at the end of it, we were all standing around, and it was freezing cold, and we were all just freezing, and. If you probably can see it on YouTube if you ever get a chance, and said, "Hi, we're Petra, and we've got a new record. We want to thank everybody for doing such a great job with Beyond Belief. We have a new record coming out, but if we told you what it's about, we'd have to kill you." And it was like
the reason there was nothing to say.
There wasn't anything to say. Yeah, we basically, it was a thank you for Beyond Belief. And there is a new record coming, and we can't tell you what it's called because we didn't have any idea what it's called.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it was a very exciting time, and that record was Bob. I want you to know that was probably the hardest record Bob ever wrote because we had a new manager, and it was she wanted to reach that general populace. She didn't want Jesus. She wanted the general populace. And Bob did amazing by keeping Christ absolutely obvious, but writing it so fancy that it probably had a chance to be a breakthrough, but with no compromise. And we just... I didn't have very much hope for it because it was just we're Christian. We're a Christian band. We're synonymous for being a Christian band. I mean, everybody knows who Petra is. We're a Christian band. So you can't sneak through the gatekeepers of the secular system. And that's whenever you see a Christian band that gets on. No, that's not fair to say. You have to go through the gatekeepers of the secular music business, and they don't want to have anything to do with Christian.
Yeah.
And if there's a song they really like, they don't know it's Christian.
Well, it's interesting you're saying that because what's coming to mind for me is, I mentioned Destiny already. You mentioned Who's on the Lord's Side. Another one of my favorites on that is the third one, Ready, Willing, and Able.
Ready,
Willing, and Able. The most known one, I think, on that album is Dance.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and when I'm listening to you say that about Bob Hartman, now it's bringing that into a new light for me.
Just think the
Dance
words.
With the One Who Brung You.
The words are amazing. He worked so hard on that record, and because it was really out of his element. He was used to saying Jesus did this and having he was able to not compromise and try a new adventure that he only did once.
Yeah.
And I think he was pleased with it. He said, "Man, that's the hardest record I've ever written." And I could see why, because I was the one that had to sing the songs. And so I think after that we just said, okay, no, we're going, there's no breakthrough for us, and it's okay. Let's just be the Christian band we're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But what I loved about that was it was an experiment. And he tried his best to be, that crossover guy without compromise. And I don't know if it can be done.
Yeah.
If he couldn't do it, nobody can do it.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was one of the, is slickest, glossiest albums. The Unseen Power one definitely has that shine on it,
Yep.
for sure. And again, we could talk about all those Petra things from that genre, that time of music. But the cool thing is now you guys are doing this tour, this 50th anniversary tour.
Yeah.
What started off as a one-off has now turned into multiple,
Yeah.
and like we mentioned, you're going to be doing the show here at New Hope on Saturday, November 4th.
Yes. Looking forward to it. Major.
Tickets are on sale now. There aren't many left, but people need to get on that.
And it's a nice venue, folks. It's a beautiful. That's what's been very cool for us. We've been playing at churches. But the churches have your systems are so first class. Back when we were, back in the days, the only way you get this kind of system was you had to bring it to. We don't have to bring anything because the churches now have got so many amazing tools to use.
Yeah.
It's just, and this church is absolutely the same, and I'm blown away. So get your tickets.
What's been the biggest surprise doing this now over the past year?
The amount of people, and the amount of shows we've done. Now, remember, 2022 was the 50th anniversary of the band starting. It's now 2023. We're going to carry this through 2000, the next year too. It's 2024, because that's when the first record came out. It's the 50th anniversary. But really, part of it is because we have no airplay. We haven't had a new record out in 20 years. So the only way that you get the fact that we're even still alive is through word of mouth or through the internet. And that takes longer. So last year we did like 6 shows, and we were I think it was 12 counting Germany. 8 counting Germany. And that was like, wow, 8 shows. I can't believe that's amazing. That's and we figured it was over. And then all of a sudden we've got these people going, hey, we got these 3 shows I'm going to do here. Would you consider this? We got 4 shows. We're going, 3, 4? Okay, that means 7. Wow. And then all of a sudden more and more. So we're up to about 40 counting the 8th for last year. And we still have next year that people are already wanting. We go to the place and they go, okay, next year, can you do this? Can you do 2 shows next year? And we're going, next year?
Next year?
I don't know if we'll still be alive. No, that will not. No, but just we weren't planning. But now that I think that's truly that's what's amazing to me.
Yeah.
Now I will say also the fact that we're selling out.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a sellout in years, and the fact now, granted, they're smaller. We're talking 700 to 1,000, 1,200. Oh, like in Norway, we sold out 2,500, and that's a major part of the population there. Twice in 2 nights in a row. So that's exciting.
It's wonderful.
And the folks, and they're coming from all over the country. It's like, I hate to use this as an example because I'm not a big fan of it, but it's sort of like the Grateful Dead. Yeah. Where you do a Grateful Dead concert, come from all over the country. And this is Grateful Alive. Petra, Gratefully Alive, and bring it on. Let's celebrate.
So can I throw this out at you?
Please do.
So it's really cool to see this happening and to see the shows and whatever. We mentioned Whiteheart earlier. Whiteheart did a little, it wasn't all the Whiteheart guys. It was just a little reunion thing that a couple of the guys did, but they sold it out too.
Yes.
And when you talk about this and you guys are getting together and playing and talking about songwriting, you're a songwriter and Bob's a songwriter. It's much easier these days to record new songs. I mean, what about...
Oh, a new album.
Maybe not a new album, but what about a new song or a new,
Actually, there was some stuff going on last year. Some labels were talking to us about some adventures they wanted to do, and which would have justified a new album. And because of that, Bob actually started writing again, which I didn't think he'd ever do again. So I actually sang on 7 new songs.
Wow. Okay.
Which is more in our coffer than we've ever had. Now, is it ever going to come out? I would say 50-50 right now, because this new thing that they wanted to do, of course, everything was great until they started asking for support. Financial support. Everybody wants to jump on board until you have to get a checkbook. And all of a sudden, the interest isn't there. And so, could there be another record? Absolutely. Bob's got it again. I've still got it. There's no reason why we couldn't do it. The guys we have in the band now are stupid good.
Yeah.
So it would be an amazing record.
And you're not beholden to anybody, any labels or any kind of thing like that, right?
No, basically, we don't want to finance it ourselves, and we don't want it to sit in the garage. So if there's a reason for it, we'll do it. If there's not, why should we? We've got 25, 30, I don't even know how many records we have, and they're all great songs, and they're timeless. So our donation, our contribution to the Christian music genre, I think has been fulfilled. Yeah. Now, if we did another record, it would add to the coffer, and it would be good stuff.
I'm sure it would.
But do we need to? No. Do we want to? I think we sort of do. But to tell you the truth, it's not like we're holding our breath.
Okay.
And I'll be honest, we're so busy, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Having fun.
Having a ball. Having a ball for a bunch of old guys just still being able to go on stage and act like a bunch of kids is fantastic.
Yeah. Well, let's drive this point home. I'm going to say this to the camera. Okay, so Saturday, November 4th, New Hope Community Church. New Hope is just south of Nashville, so it's basically a Nashville
Actually,
show.
a very good location for everybody.
Yeah, so do that. But there's also other dates available, too, that you guys have been adding.
Actually, just go to Petra's 50th anniversary tour, and it shows you all the different dates, and they're growing. I mean, I'm serious. I thought we were done 2 months ago, and I think we've increased it by double.
Yeah.
So, but mostly here in the Nashville, central
Tennessee, Middle
country.
Tennessee.
Yeah, and which is great. And now everybody from all the other parts are going, well, when?
What
Come
about
on.
us?
And
Yes.
well, we'll talk about that next year.
Yeah, that costs money.
It does. It does. And it cost a desire to do it, a desire to see it. I mean, you can have people, churches that are willing and have everything you need to go and do it. God bless them. They're just like your church. They have a heart to see this kind of thing work, and you've seen it work before. It's just a matter, are you going to come?
Yeah.
And if they feel it's a waste of time, why do it?
Yeah.
Because the church is busy anyway.
Well, it's worth it, for sure. And
Yes.
so let's close on this note, okay?
Okay.
All right. Now I'm going to look at the camera. I'm going to say this because this guy earlier said that he kind of disparaged himself on his songwriting, but he put out an album about 2 and a half years ago.
I think 3 years now. That
3
was
years?
just before COVID. How long's that been?
Okay. The title of it is
Go.
All right. Now listen. I saw you on Huckabee sing one of the songs in there called "Feel It."
Yes.
And I was like adding that to the running playlist because it is a rocker.
It stomps.
It just moves, and it is one of many very good songs on that album.
Thank you, buddy.
And I'm just telling everybody right now, whoever's going to be watching this, you need to go check out John Schlitt's album, Go, because the timing of when it came out, it didn't have good timing.
It's the oldest new album I've ever had. It's very cool.
Well, that's what's funny. When I heard you sing it on Huckabee, and then I was like, oh, he's got a new album. And I was like, that's a couple of years ago.
2020? Wow, that's a little older than I thought.
Yeah.
Officially, it was supposed to come out on February 28th, 2020. And COVID decided to rear its ugly head on March 1st or 2nd of that same, about 2 days later.
Yeah.
And
the thing I love about it is that it's you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's you doing the music you love.
Yes.
And it works.
Yes.
For today. I didn't listen to it and think to myself, oh, it sounds dated or it sounds like a 1970s rocker. It's a current rock, fun, good sound that I'm going to add that to my running playlist.
And it was done by 3 different producing camps too, which was a new adventure for me. All 3 amazing people, amazing teams. That was actually pretty cool to be able to have 3 separate teams working by themselves. And then it was all said and done. All songs came together. And the last song I wrote was Go, because that was the theme that just shined like a beacon through all the music, including The song we talked about before.
Oh, can I say it? Fake news?
Fake news.
Fake news, man.
Love that
oh, that
song.
song. Well, it's an element of, it cracks me up.
It was supposed to be.
Okay. Because that's where I was like, okay, this is just funny. And it's a good song. And I wouldn't call it angry. It's not angry. It just is kind of maybe a little exhausted with the fake.
Yeah.
Fake.
Yeah. Hey, I'm exhausted with it. I'm exhausted listening to every network that comes out that gives me all this garbage. It's all fake news, and I'm sick of hearing it. And so I wanted to let folks know that there is a term called fake news, and it covers just about every major new network that you're listening to right now. Get real. Have some real, how to put it, wake up. Realize that what's called news now is nothing but propaganda. And just realize it, and realize you live in the most fantastic country in the history of mankind. Just don't let folks steal away from you.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen. Okay, there's my political statement for the day. All right.
There you go. All right, so go check it out. John Schlitt, go. And then get your tickets to the 50th anniversary Petra concert that's happening here at New
And please
Hope.
do it quickly, because it is selling fast.
It is. It'll, this when this airs, it might be gone. So we'll see.
Yeah, and too bad we couldn't do 2 shows, because in this area, this would have been a good place to do it. But I do like the idea that a sellout is always a beautiful thing, and it makes it for a major adventure. It'll be fun.
Yeah. Well, let me shake your hand.
Oh,
Thank you so much for
my
being
pleasure,
here.
Josh.
I really appreciate it. So John Schlitt of Petra, and John Schlitt of solo fame, and John Schlitt
of Union of Sinners and Saints, and John Schlitt of J Secular Band, and John. A couple of things.
Who's this? What's this shirt you're wearing here?
Hey, this is called Luxury Auto Collection.
Okay.
Or Luxury Air Collection. My son in Scottsdale, Arizona, sells these Rolls Royces, Bentleys, Porsches, Ferraris, Bengattis, just all the fancy cars that no one can afford.
There you go. Luckily for you, all guests of the Josh Huisman podcast receive a Rolls Royce from Luxury Auto.
Absolutely. Think about it. Not.
Oh, man. All right. Thank you. I'm looking forward to the show on November 4th.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for being here.
We will see you there, and it'll be fun.
All right. All right. New episodes every week on the Josh Huisman podcast. We will see you then. Thanks to John Schlitt for being here today, and for Petra, 50 years of music. See you all later.